Hello, tile friends. Welcome back to another episode of Tile Money, the podcast where we discuss the business of being a tile contractor. Tile Money is brought to you by the National Tile Contractors Association, and this episode is sponsored by Laticrete International. My name is Luke Miller, your host, and I'm sitting with Dave Gobis. Dave, thanks for having me in your house.
Hey,
Appreciate your time.
no problem.
We're here in Racine, Wisconsin, your hometown.
Yes, sir.
And it's a beautiful place right on the water. Now, Dave, I've been on the internet, for 12, 15 years. When I was a contractor, I turned to John Bridge forums for advice. And your name was, consistently among the top name that I would get advice from as far as installation techniques, standards, methods. So I want to thank you for, first of all, for being so willing and free with your knowledge.
Well, no problem. That's what I do.
You made a lot of, impact in the industry and had a lot of, you've been on a lot of committees, made a lot of, changes in the industry. What has influenced you? Who or what has influenced you to take such a role?
In training and education?
Yes.
Quite honestly, the driver is I made a lot of money doing tile. And I would like everybody to make a lot of money doing tile.
Yeah.
But I'd like everybody to make a lot of money doing tile the right way. But honestly, I've been very fortunate in what I've done. Things have worked out well for me. I'm happy with it. I want to share with it. I think everybody knows that nobody seems to want to share what they feel are their secrets. I mean, that's something you hear a lot is, oh, no, I'm not going to tell you, or I want you to leave the room while I do this, or just crazy, weird. Nobody wants to share. As far as I'm concerned, it's a public book. Whatever you want to know, I'll do it.
Do you think those, quote unquote secrets have hurt the industry?
I don't think it hurts it. It just doesn't help it.
Doesn't help.
I don't think it puts the hurt on anybody. It's, I guess it puts the hurt on somebody as far as keeping people stupid.
Yeah.
That's the part that drives me crazy. I just want educated tile guys to go out and make lots of money.
Yeah. That's a good viewpoint. Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that. Let's talk about your tile business. Tell us a little bit about, the 10,000 foot overview, when you got started, all the way, how large it was.
Well, my tile was something on my mother's side. My family's been in the tile business since the Civil War. They rebuilt parts of Atlanta after it got burned down.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had a great-great-grandfather named General Lee Mayfield.
You're kidding.
Seriously.
Wow.
I had three aunts too. Itty May, Issy May, and something another May. I don't remember. Weird names. I have an uncle. His name is Green Thrift. His dad owns a bank.
Yeah.
It's a Southern thing.
Yeah.
So, but through divorce, I ended up here in Racine. And then the rest of my family was in Georgia. So we go down to Georgia quite a bit. And my grandfather had me hauling buckets at an early age as soon as they wouldn't drag on the ground.
Yeah.
So we just kind of grew up with mud. And I think, I remember in the summertime, we used to go down there and where I learned the mud was they take these old farmhouses. And during the war, they built a lot of farmhouses out of wooden crates. Leftover shipping containers.
Yeah.
And then they put a bathroom in them.
Okay.
So we'd go down there and wire up the walls and mud out the walls and tile the bathrooms over these old shipping crates. And them things, this was like Fort Knox.
Yeah.
And so my grandfather, he ended up working till he was in his 70s because he ran out of money. Great tile setter, poor businessman.
Yeah.
In any event, I apprenticed with my grandfather in South Georgia. It took me 6 years to finish it. An apprenticeship at the time was 500 hours of classroom and 8,000 hours of field work. Workload and travel schedules and whatnot, because I was still living primarily in Racine, but I had a job where I got laid off all the time, so I go back down there whenever I got laid off. And once that was done, then some other family changes. I ended up kind of sort of staying in Racine. Did our first really big job back in Georgia. My grandfather, when he ran out of money, he bid this hotel on St. Simon's Island and couldn't put the old crew back together. And he was in his 70s then.
Yeah.
Couldn't put the crew back together to do the job. So he had the job. He's under contract. So now not only was he not going to make any money, he was going to lose money. So me and my boys went down there and whipped out the hotel for him and came back here. Then I started doing fast food. We did some bathroom remodels, but I mean, when I started, we started with me, Steve, and Fuji, so there's three of us. And shortly thereafter, we added the fourth one. So there was always four of us, so it was a lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah.
We ended up playing around with fast food. We did Wendy's, Taco Bell's, McDonald's, KFC's, all over the country. I think the farthest we went was Colorado Springs, and we go all the way out to the East Coast. That was a great training ground.
Yeah.
We're doing fast food restaurants. But then everybody started having babies and, things like that, and that kind of changed that dynamic. So we had to stay local. So we started doing some sub work. The guy that I was subbing from couldn't pay me. Although he got all his money, I didn't get any of mine. And I ended up taking a store. So that put me in the retail business.
Okay.
Then his store wasn't in the best location. I stayed there for a while and kind of got used to the retail thing. So then we got our own location, bought another building, put a warehouse on it, had a yard where we could keep trucks and a sand pile. Sand pile, very important to tile guys, and especially older tile guys. One that the cats can't get into. It just kind of went from there. We did residential, we did commercial. Whoever walked in the door, we did some bid work. Whatever happened, we ended up, our sales volume. One mistake I made early on was getting too big too fast, because there's plenty of work out there. And I had, within a couple, 3 years, I think it was about 3-4 years, I got to 20 guys.
Okay.
And that was our first $2 million year.
Okay.
And it was also the year I lost 176,000. So that plan didn't work out so good.
What did you pinpoint the problem?
Lack of supervision. One guy can watch about 10 people. One guy can't watch 20 people.
And was it you in charge and 20 installers?
Yeah, I was in charge of all of them.
Yeah, a little bit.
And so the workmanship was bad. The callbacks were huge. Just couldn't do it. So Christmas week, I fired 10 of them. Sorry.
Yeah.
Business is business. Next year, did almost the same volume, but, with about a 10% profit. And we ended up zeroing in. We usually did right around $2 million a year. And our profits the last 10 years, we did averaged about, 1.89, 2.1, 2.2. And the profits averaged about 11 to 13% net.
Yeah.
Which is pretty high.
Yeah.
But we had a fine-tuned machine. I mean, we had a lot of equipment. We paid this was all hourly wages, too. Hourly wages, health insurance, paid vacation, paid holidays, dental insurance, vision insurance, prescription insurance. It was expensive.
Yeah.
Even back then, it was expensive.
Yeah.
But loyalty, when I sold the business later, almost everybody there had been there for years and years and years. So we had a loyal, trained labor force, and that's just really difficult to find.
Yeah.
So I sold it in 98. Got recruited to run the Ceramic Tile Education Foundation, stayed there till 2008, and then my wife retired and I came home.
Yeah. How did you go about selling your tile installation business?
Believe it or not, I listed it with a business broker.
Okay.
And it got bought by an attorney.
How long did that take?
Till I got the first offer, about 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah. When you're talking, consistent, we had financial statements. They're actually over there in that drawer. We have financial statements and, with software package. My mother worked for the county, so we were on the cutting edge of software as far as accounting went.
Yeah.
And we had all the numbers. We could show the consistent profit. And that's what sold the business was, 10% on $2 million.
I was going to ask, how do you come up with a sale price on a business like that?
They vary according to business. A business like the tile business, different businesses have different valuations. My valuations was 2.5 times gross earnings. Accountants are like 7 times billings.
Wow.
There's different formulas.
Yeah.
And then plus assets. So we had a consistent profit. We showed a consistent, everything was open, but everything was there. Yeah. And we had a building paid for. We had trucks paid for. All the equipment, everything was paid for.
Yeah.
So it was good business.
What did you get for the sale?
1.1 something another.
Just over $1 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I got, that was an asset purchase. It wasn't a business purchase. They purchased all the assets of the company. That means I get to keep all the receivables. And the receivables were $485,000.
Okay.
Keep in mind, I said receivables, which meant money people had to pay after you sold the business. But I got everything except $500 from a cabinet maker. And the ironic thing about that, I was a cabinet maker. I asked him a couple times for my money. And he says, David, it's not like I'm going to screw you out of it.
Yeah.
And out of $500,000, he was the only one that screwed me.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ed. So it was a good deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so. Sounds like a real good deal. I think a lot of people...
So I promptly went and paid all my bills and paid my mortgage and paid everything and put some money in the bank. And
Yeah. How long did that company last? Continue.
28 years.
In your hands, it was 28 years?
I mean, it depends on how you look at it.
Sure.
I mean, I did tile 28 years. We added retail and I don't know. We had maybe 20 years plus in retail.
Yeah.
It all depends on how you. I got 49 years or 48 years altogether, so it all depends on how you divvy it up.
Yeah. A lot of folks, tile people, business owners, contractors, they talk about either staying small or getting really large. Do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, a lot of people seem to struggle to show a profit at, let's say 5 employees. 2 employees, sure, and then 10 employees, yes, but 5, 6, employees is. What do you think the secret there is? What
you got to find your comfort level, but I think the most important thing in contracting is knowing your numbers. Mm. You got to know what things cost. And every February, we would spend a week analyzing everything.
Yeah.
And we did it in February because it was a slow time of the year and guys were happy to be working and they didn't have to hurry up and get done so they go to the next job. So every February, we analyzed everything.
Yeah.
How long to load the truck, how long to do this, how long to everything. And then we'd take a look at it, and after a couple of years, we got it evened out. And then it comes down to management. Like, I could manage 10 guys, which is basically like 3 crews.
Yeah.
Truck driver, and we had 3-man crews usually, sometimes 2-man crews. I didn't have any trouble managing 10. After it got over 10, I couldn't do it. And I think it goes to how committed you are and how well you can truly manage somebody. I mean, not everybody can manage people.
Yeah.
I'd manage the crews, and then I'd go to work. After I got done with all the dispatching and taking all the initial phone calls and this ain't and that ain't and whatnot, I'd go to work. And what I did most often was we had a C60, 2 C60s, actually F600 and a C60. C60 was a delivery truck with a lift gate. And the F600 was a flatbed that we, for whatever. And I would preload all the jobs myself before the crew got there. And that way I could see what we had, what we didn't have, what we needed, what equipment to bring. I mean, I could have paid somebody to do that, but
yeah.
It was, and I lost that ability when I added more guys. I couldn't possibly keep up with it.
Sure.
And so then you got guys sitting there waiting for this and waiting for that, and you're paying them. It depends on who they are and what they're doing, but
yeah,
you're paying a lot of money in wages and benefits for somebody to sit and wait for a floor sander or something,
Yeah.
So it just didn't work, and the quality didn't work either because you can't check. So I mean, if you've got a good guy, if you've got a good office guy, yeah, maybe you could do more. But I mean, everybody's got to find their comfort zone.
Yeah.
It's whatever you're comfortable with. Because when the business is no longer fun, if you want to use that word, then it ain't worth it.
Yeah.
You'll never be any good at anything you don't like. I mean, don't bother wasting your time. If somebody would tell me I don't like tile, but I need to earn a living, his days are numbered. I know it ain't going to work out.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, the tile industry is unique. There's a lot of days that just aren't easy, that difficult.
I think most days aren't easy.
Exactly. And so when you talk about your crew, and you said, towards when you sold it, there was a lot of guys who had been with you and loyal to you a lot of years. And no doubt your business was running, almost like a machine. If you can sell a business for $1 million, I mean, that, like you said, you had the proof of the consistent profit, the proof of the consistent work. So how did you build that loyalty in your crews and your guys, and how do you get them to a point where you can, I know not every day you were out in the field, even though, a lot of days you wanted to be, and that was your intention. A lot of days you're stuck right here in the office. True?
Yeah, but we paid wages and benefits.
Yeah.
You go find a job where you can get health, dental, vision, prescription,
Yeah.
Plus your check, and it's there every Friday like clockwork.
Yeah.
You become loyal too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we paid overtime. Somebody worked overtime, they worked overtime. I mean, I hope he doesn't watch this podcast, but my brother is a classic example.
Yeah.
My brother is, not because he's just my brother, but with no argument, he's one of the best tile setters around. Actual skill level as a tile setter. And he always helped me out. He always got me out of a jam if I was in a jam. Anything I needed, I could always call my brother.
Yeah.
Always took care of me. But early on in the business, had to make a decision. He wanted a piece of the business, and that's fine. But, you need to earn it and pay for it just like me. I mean, you guys are all working 8 hours a day. I'm coming in at 6:30 and going home at 9. So it takes, some skin.
Yeah.
And I said, so you can either do that, put in some time and go to a salary, or I'll pay you for every hour you work. Whatever you want to do. And he chose to get paid for every hour he worked. And without question, I paid him for every hour that he worked. If he said he needed to work overtime, I paid him for the overtime. I mean, I was like an ATM machine. Whatever you need, it's yours.
Yeah.
It's, but then everybody forgets when you go to sell the business that you were there at 6:30 when they pulled in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And you were there after they were already home eating supper, getting ready for the next day or doing bids or reading prints.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to it. There's, I've seen something the other day about somebody wants to work, 35 hours a week and make $100,000 a year. Good luck. It's a competitive business.
Yeah.
And if it were that simple, there'd be a lot of smart guys out there doing the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. You got to put the time in.
You got to put the time in.
Roll up your sleeves, go to work.
I mean, but for me, it was worth it. I mean, I sold the business. I gave you a little tour. You can see that, I have no regrets. I'm beat up. I'm hurting now. I've got all kinds of, little physical things. No doubt that I earned my living with my body, but
yeah, I
don't care. I did what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I'm happy.
Yeah. Well, since you brought up the no regrets, I mean, oftentimes, the old saying, hindsight is 20/20. If you went back, 30 years, would there be any changes that you would have maybe implemented sooner, processes, systems that would have maybe made things a little bit quicker, or anything on that nature?
No.
Okay. That's pretty good.
I know that I should patronizingly say something or another, but my sister-in-law, Kathy, ran the store. Sharp Cookie was in retail, actually the grocery store for years. My mother did my books. She was an accountant for the county. Mm-hmm. I saw that the errors that my grandfather made, doing high rises, buying new cars every year, getting drunk and crashing them and having to go back to work when he's 76. You know, I mean, I saw.
So you learned from history before you.
I saw all these things happen.
Yeah.
You know, and they weren't going to happen to me.
Yeah.
You know, it just wasn't going to. I mean, in my own family, when we grew up, that was pre-food stamp era. You'd go to the surplus commodity place and you get a couple cans of Spam, a block of pasteurized cheese, some black-eyed peas and cornbread and flour, and that's what you didn't have no food card.
Yeah.
You know, I hate Spam. I won't eat Spam to this day. That's how we grew up.
Yeah.
I mean, my mother had 7 kids, man. 7 boys, and she was single almost all of her life.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you make a good point. Oftentimes there's no need to reinvent the wheel. I mean, you can learn from the people who came before you and learn from their mistakes and successes and learn what to do.
You gotta know your numbers.
Yeah. And you know, you mentioned a couple things. You had a bookkeeper. You know, you had somebody you trusted as in the store.
Yep.
Did you have any other systems or processes that you could point to that really helped you succeed?
Well, we costed out. I mean, we did that hard cost analysis every February, but we kept the job sheet on every job, kept a file, and I just burned them all a few years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, every job we ever did, there were thousands of them. There was a whole pallet. There was a 30-foot wall full of boxes 8 foot high of jobs that we did. And I guess we didn't have to go wandering around looking, and I don't know.
So if you needed to know what grout color was in that job,
I knew whatever,
what thin set was used.
I knew everything about the job.
The name, the number,
everything.
The dog's name.
There's no wondering, you know, what you're going to do.
Yeah. You know, obviously there's been a lot of changes. You know, we talk about mud work, which is still relevant, still being used today. We talk about, you know, seeing a lot of the new systems for building showers, floors, what have you. Anything, you know, disturbing coming down the path? Any trends or tendencies, even, you know, on the installation? You know, your job today, or, you know, your part-time job is forensics, is you know, looking at failures. Is that correct?
Correct.
Any disturbing?
Well, here's where I'll make a lot of friends. Dumb continues to get dumber.
Okay.
Count on it. There's things to be said for innovation. And there are some innovative products out there. There's some innovative product categories out there. I think where part of the trouble comes in when imitators come on after the innovators. You can make an argument for all different kinds of things. I mean, like foam boards, you know, mud guys, foam boards. You're a foamy, you're a muddy. You know, I got a foam board. I got a pallet of it out in the building. If I got to do something, I'll do it because I'm fat, I'm old. You know, I don't like to carry things. However, if it was something that counted and then I wanted it to be here for a long time, I'd mud it. I'd still mud it. We still mud stuff, just for playing around mud stuff. I think there's a place for pretty much everything.
Sure. But
the products that are being developed today are being developed to accommodate the skill level of the workforce. That's the way I see it. And a lot of marketing stuff, too. I mean, some of the stuff that's out there now, I don't get it. You know, why does one person need to make 30 different kinds of thin set? I don't get it. So you need one that you use in hot days, cold days, you know, that won't slide down the wall, that won't do this, that won't do that. That I don't get it. You know, and grouts, you know, stain-proof, bulletproof, everything proof. Hell, man, get some sand and cement grout and hit it with a popsicle stick. That'll be bulletproof. You know? I mean, you saw my porch when we come in here.
Yeah.
Never been touched, 26 years. Original caulk joints.
Yeah.
No problems. Looks like the day it was. Did it not look like the day it was put in?
Yeah, it could have been installed last summer.
You know, I mean,
I'll get a photo. I'll get a photo of it before I leave.
There's nothing. It spends its winter under ice.
Yeah.
You know, the rest of the tile work, I showed you them joints.
Yeah.
And the kitchen tile work and stuff. Yeah, I should have caulked them. If anybody should have caulked them, I should have caulked them. I mean, you're talking about the purveyor of caulk, but I didn't want to caulk them for the same reasons most consumers don't want to caulk them. So to accommodate that, I put blocking in the wall. And when we put the cabinets in, we screwed the cabinets into the blocking. That thing is tight. So if the whole wall moves, yeah, but 26 years, it ain't cracked yet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting subject because when we talk about, you know, failures, certainly failures can put a guy out of business.
Oh yeah, I put guys out of business. and I tell you, it felt really bad.
Yeah.
And it still feels bad. Nobody wants to know you're going to put somebody out of business.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do?
Well, what you're going to do is prevent the failure, correct? And so what you've done here, you saw the problem, you put some blocking in, it's in your own house, you know,
Yep.
You've been living here with it. You created a system of products and methods that you trusted.
Yeah.
Am I on the right page here?
Yeah, I mean, I knew that what I was, well, I didn't know 100%, but I figured that it gave me my best chance.
Yeah.
So I made a concentrated effort.
So, there's the Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule, states that 20% of your energies will affect 80% of the outcomes. Something of that nature. So thinking about that, what would you say is important to focus on, as a business owner, as a tile contractor business owner? What areas should you really be focused on if you're going to attempt to grow to 10 employees or more?
Well, if you're looking to expand your horizons, I mean, if you want to grow the business, I know you obviously are a big Facebook fan, and there's a lot of internet fans. The way that I equate in my own mind, Facebook and internet stuff and everything are shoppers, and I want to be buyers. And if I'm going to grow my business with buyers, I want to be in front of buyers, not shoppers. So to that end, I'd get more in the community involvement. Now, this pertains to growing the business. That's what you're talking about.
Sure.
Not anything else. I don't know if that's the answer that you were expecting or not.
No, it's a great answer. Community involvement. And earlier today, you shared a story about how, you got involved in the community.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to share with my audience that story?
Sure. It's a good story. So here in Racine, one of the big companies is S.C. Johnson Wax. And Sam Johnson, who's passed away, is our local billionaire, along with other members of his family. And Sam walks into my store in downtown Racine one day. And downtown Racine's not an easy place to park. And when Sam came down there, by the way, he was driving his, like, I don't know, this was probably 1984 or 5. He was driving his 78 Oldsmobile,
Okay.
which he was famous for. This guy owns jets
Yeah.
and helicopters and drives around town in the 78 Olds.
Pick up a bag of grout.
Yeah, to pick up a bag of grout. And so I said, well, you know, if you would have mentioned it, I would have been glad to deliver it for you. Because the Johnson family, they had some real estate dealings and they owned some banks and stuff like that. And they'd given me a little bit of business. And obviously, for the richest man in town, I would have delivered a bag of grout for free. Won't even charge you for it.
Yeah.
And I said, so I'm curious. He says, well, it was a good excuse to come down. He says, I've been after my handyman for months to do this particular project and whatever it was. And he said he'd do it, but he didn't have no grout. So I told him, I'll go get the grout. And he says, I wanted to talk to you anyways. I said, well, sure. And we're standing out in the shop, and he says, I just have something I want you to think about. He says, you can't take, sometimes you got to give. He says, I want you to think about that for a while. Okay. It's kind of a cryptic message.
Yeah.
So I called his personal representative. All billionaires have personal representatives. And the guy's name was Paul Ritter. And I said, Paul, I said, Sam stopped in to get a bag of grout and said, you can't take, sometimes you got to give. And I says, I think I know what he's saying, but I'm really not sure what he's saying. And he's saying that, Paul says, well, he thinks that you should get more involved in the community, you know, that they've blessed you with this work.
Yeah.
They've given you this work. You know, and they'd like to see you get more involved in the community, giving back some of it, I guess. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
So I said, well, what all is Sam involved in? And he said, well, I'll send you a list. Well, Smithsonian, Sienna Club, EAA. I mean, he was in all kinds of things.
A dozen things, or
yeah, Ducks Unlimited.
like a dozen or 20 or
Probably a dozen.
a dozen or so.
And then one of the local ones was Festival of Trees, and Festival of Trees was coming up, and they were looking for sponsors. So he said he just wants you to get more involved. It's okay, so I decided to become a diamond sponsor for Festival of Trees, which I think was like $5,000. It was a lot of money. And I did that. I joined the EAA. I joined the Smithsonian. I joined everything.
Yeah.
You know, everything that was on his list that I could join, I joined.
Yeah.
And over the course of the next couple of years, every single family job that came up, I got. I serviced all their buildings, which they had over 60 buildings. I mean, including the administration, the Frank Lloyd Wright building downtown, their research building. We serviced the entire company.
Wow.
And that's just one account. And actually, a funny sidebar to that story was the guy I put on it, Keith Schmidt, was the guy that I put on that account to take care of him.
Mm-hmm.
So Keith knew every tunnel and everything at all those buildings. He knew everything about them buildings. And it wasn't an easy place to work because they're a chemical manufacturer. Besides having all of your OSHA classes, then you have to go through safety process management. You have to go through fire training.
Yeah.
Confined spaces. I mean, at your expense, I might add.
Right.
You know, my expense.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, so we had Keith go through it, or Keith was in charge of the account. And after we left and after I sold the business, he was still there.
Really?
And he stayed there. And then he joined another company and they hired that company. And then when Keith quit that company because of some personnel issues, they dumped the company and hired another company. But they stayed with Keith.
Yeah.
They stayed loyal to Keith irregardless.
Yeah.
Keith was the man.
Huh.
So we took care of them properties for over 40 years.
Yeah. So that's a powerful tale of getting involved with the community.
And it just came from, you know, I mean, I attended a few meetings here and there where if I knew that he was going to be somewhere, I went there. Then we got involved in other things, the Zoological Society and Preservation Racine and blah, blah, blah. And the thing is, when you get involved with these community programs, which don't always cost you money, sometimes it's a matter of just being there. Sometimes it's a matter of donating a few hours of labor. But when you get involved with those and you get on these different committees and stuff, you are working for the decision makers.
Yeah.
You're not working for the factory floor guys, which bless their hearts. The middle managers, I don't bless them so much because they all want to be upper level managers. But you're working for upper level managers, or you're working with upper level managers and principals and doing this, you know, charity work, goodwill work, whatever it may happen to be. It makes a huge difference in your clientele, if that's the market that you want to work in.
Yeah.
If you want to work in that high-end residential market, then you need to get in front of the decision makers. You don't want to go to the shoppers. I mean, we used to get people in the store that said, well, I saw this for blah, blah at Home Depot, and you're blah, blah. And my response always was, well, we don't really typically service the Home Depot type accounts.
Yeah.
You know, that's not our market. We don't service Home Depot type projects.
Sure.
You know, and some people took offense to that, and that was fine. Then they wouldn't come back, and I wouldn't have to deal with them again.
Yeah.
The other thing, speaking of, I shouldn't say home, big box, I should say. Other thing that happened is one of them used to, whenever somebody had a question that their salespeople couldn't answer, they tell them to call us. And I'm just wondering why we're getting all these questions, you know, about, well, I bought so-and-so and this and that, and this don't work and that don't work. And they'd call them up. The sales guy wouldn't know. They'd tell them to call us.
Yeah.
By name. They'd say, call Tile Concepts. I have to tell you, it was Home Depot. And I finally found out about it.
Yeah.
So I wrote the manager a letter. And I told him, thank you for sending us all these customers. We really appreciate it. And I never heard from one again.
Yeah.
I may have.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was like a constant stream of big box guys, and wrote the manager a letter thanking him for all the leads.
Yeah, try to cut down on that.
Put an end to it.
That's pretty good. What else would you credit to your success on a national level or success organization, you know, business-wise?
Well, a couple of things there. Before we get into the national level stuff, if you say you're going to do something, do it. If you say you're going to be someplace, be there. I know a big part of our success was that if I said somebody was going to be there, they were there.
Yeah.
I don't care if it was a guy pushing a broom. I mean, they might have thought we were putting the floor in, but maybe the tile guy wasn't ready or whatever, and we had to go finish a job. I'd send somebody there with a broom. I don't care. Broom it, wipe it all down with a sponge, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
But I said we'd be there Monday. We're going to be there.
Yeah.
So we just buy time that way. And if we needed another day, maybe we'd put some primer on.
Yeah.
Don't need the primer, but of course that's not what manufacturer says. But whatever it took to buy the time, that's what we're always there when we say we're going to be there. Avoid callbacks and don't go over your head. On a national level, I guess the reason I got so involved in that was with NTCA. I was always been championing training and education. That's always been my thing. Mm-hmm. And I got involved with NTCA. A lot of opportunities there. And I don't know any other place you can go to these meetings and meet up with the principals of all these companies.
Yeah.
You know, there's no other venue like that where you can do that. And you get to not be knowledgeable and, you know, in them and their workings and what their thinking is and what their plans are. I got involved with a technical committee, got involved with methods and standards. NTCA is really how I expanded into a national type situation.
Yeah.
It's a huge opportunity, and one that I don't know where else you can get that type of exposure.
Yeah.
So I credit that with a lot. I mean, that's how people's awareness of me grew, was I started getting in front of these people. I started doing these presentations at coverings. Before that, it was ITSE, you know, just a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and I started writing articles. If you can write, there's a good way to get your name out there. Go write a piece for somebody.
Yeah.
They're always looking for content providers.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know how many I've written, but I've written over 200 articles.
Yeah.
You know,
you got to get involved though. You got to take that
step.
You
have to get involved. Yeah. If you want money, you need to get involved. If you think that you're so damn great, somebody's going to send you a check, good luck.
Doesn't happen. Yeah, it just doesn't happen like that, huh?
No.
What are you most proud of all the different contributions you made to the industry?
Training. The time I spent at CTF running training classes. The ability to take somebody who knew relatively little about tile, and I've had guys come back to me at the show, and I won't say it happens at every show, but probably the thing that I appreciate the most is, I remember the last show I went to, some guy came by, I don't remember who he was, but he says, you know, I went to one of your classes back in 2000 and, you know, blah, 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 and it took, and you've answered some questions for me over the years and so on and so forth. And he says, I went from somebody from the IT department with no future to now I have a store and a warehouse and employees and trucks. And there's quite a few of them stories out there. I can't say tons of them, but it's amazing that most shows I go to, somebody will say something or another about how beneficial the training and education was to them. And that's kind of why I did it, because I wanted to share things. I mean, I still do volunteer stuff all the time. And I just want to share it. I mean, I've been very fortunate, and I want to share that good fortune.
Yeah.
However, that doesn't mean anybody listening to this podcast should call me, because I won't answer the phone.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your sharing knowledge, like I said, over the years on the John Bridge forums and various other communities, my community, Tile Money Facebook group. We really appreciate it. You've been generous with your contributions to this industry, your time you've spent. I really believe in what you said. Change can only happen one person at a time. And if you can help somebody to grow their business and make a difference in their personal lives, it strengthens the industry. So I really appreciate the positive effect that you've had on countless people, people that haven't reached out to you, people that you don't even know exist in this present day and even in future generations, because that's the beauty of this internet stuff, is we can go Google something, and if there's a comment on a technical question, chances are your name will...
It boggles my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, here I am, and it's kind of like, just like me and my wife have talked about it a few times. It's like, really? I don't get it. I mean, whatever,
Yeah. As far as what?
I just don't get it. It boggles my mind that I've been so widely read and sought after over the years.
Mm-hmm.
It just, I mean, you've been around me a short period of time, but enough to know that, I'm kind of like a, hey, whatever kind of guy. I mean, it doesn't, whatever.
Well, I think the point is, like you said, one of the secrets to success is rolling up your sleeves and getting to work and putting the work in. And over the course of due time, if you consistently put the work in and consistently produce results, and in this case, answer questions, research, write about technical aspects, over the course of due time, that's who you become. And it's well deserved, that recognition. So
yeah, it's. I take back to one of the things when I was at CTF, and I used to want to run tests all the time, and they let me do some testing, but the TCA lab people get paid money too.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't like to do a lot of free testing.
Okay.
But I get to do some testing.
Okay.
And if it was going to be for a presentation or something like that. But there were things I wanted to know that they wouldn't do the testing for.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody to pay for it. Even they wouldn't let me take it out of my budget because the TCA is on my board. Now that I'm doing this forensic stuff, I can test whatever I want.
Yeah.
And I do. I test stuff all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think you can do something and slide something by, good luck to you.
Yeah.
I mean, this last claim I did a few weeks ago, I said there was a sealer on the tile, leftover sealer on a porcelain tile. And the complaint was the tile was spotting. And when they talked about it originally, it sounded like there were acid spots on the floor. When I go down and look at it, and it's only where they put this throw rug down in front of the shower, and feel the tile. The tile is really sticky, gummy, like leftover sealer. And so I get to looking at it, and I scrubbed it off with some barkeeper's friend, and I said, it's sealer. Oh, no, it can't be sealer, blah, blah, blah. Well, then the manufacturer took and spent $2,500 on testing and said, yeah, we got the results back. There's fluoride in it. Fluoride's typically used in sealers. Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
I have a lot of fun now. I mean, you see my little chemical pile over there.
Yeah, it's quite the office.
I can do all kinds of testing.
Yeah.
Over here we have a diamond wheel. They usually use them for gem polishing. Mm-hmm. But when you look at things under a microscope, You have to polish them so that the face isn't fuzzy.
Yeah.
You know, over on the other side of the room here is a microscope hooked up to the computer. I can get it like 400 power.
Wow.
I can see all kinds of things.
Yeah.
I can see if you use too much water when you were cleaning up. I can see all kinds of things.
Yeah. So you get samples sent to you to your office here.
Yeah, but not. I'm kind of a jerk, you know. I don't encourage things like that.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm really expensive.
Yeah.
Especially being retired, I'm horribly expensive.
Well, that's the beauty of being in demand.
Well, it's not. I don't want to be in demand. I just want to be left alone.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I wasn't going to do this interview.
Well, I really, truly do appreciate you.
You know, you don't need to appreciate it. I mean, but, you know, there comes a time in life when,
Sure.
you know, if you can't retire and enjoy your retirement, then you messed up someplace.
Yeah.
But I'm too far in it just to pull out of it. So, no, I don't mind. I still do stuff all the time.
Yeah.
You know, every day I'm doing tile stuff.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thanks for this interview, Dave. I really appreciate your time, and I know it's going to be beneficial to my audience. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's different than looking at progressive failures and,
Yeah.
you know, the forensic stuff. Forensic stuff's a lot of fun.
How many forensics people are there in the United States?
Well, now you see, now if you want an opportunity to make money, at this level, there's no more than maybe 10.
10 people. Yeah.
You know, but, you know, I mean, here, just forensics, it means you're going to discover the issue and you're going to back it up in science. It's not a matter of having an opinion. Mm-hmm. It's a matter of establishing something. You know, like we say, you know, you get some hollow tile, you say more tile is going to get hollow. You need to establish that. I don't know how well the camera will pick it up. This is a survey we did on a project. I don't remember which color is which. But I said to the owner that it was going to continue to get worse. And so green was the initial delaminated tile. Yellow was when we did the second sound survey, then blue, then red. So we sounded this thing and established that, yes, in fact, it did get a lot worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, we have a complaint about waterproofing. And we did some core samples. And I don't know how to... So here we're coring a floor. We're looking at samples. Mm-hmm. You know, we're figuring out what's what and so on and so forth. So this is the kind of stuff forensic guys do.
Yeah.
It's not, it takes a fair, you have to have knowledge of building materials. You have to have knowledge of standards. You have to have basic tile setting knowledge. I mean,
yeah.
You know, everybody... I keep telling Bart at NTCA I'm going to write an article for him one of these days because everybody wants to be a consultant. Great. We don't mind consultants because all the consultants that are out there are retirement age. Every single one I know, and I know all of them, they're all retirement age.
Yeah.
And there's nobody coming in behind. But you have to be able to write. First, you got to know the tile industry. Then you got to be able to write. Then you got to know about standards. And you get these guys that have never been to a technical meeting in their life.
Yeah.
And they want to be a consultant.
Yeah.
And they don't even know how the industry is structured. How are you going to be a consultant? You don't know what the performance criteria is for the product. You don't know nothing about it. You just know it's wrong, even though you don't know the performance criteria. I got a membrane job going like that in West Palm Beach right now. Job is trash. The membrane would never work. It never would have worked. But the manufacturers managed to find a few ways, because there's no such thing as a perfect job. So you're always going to be on the hook. There is no perfect.
Yeah.
You know, warranties are disclaimers. And this job is in the toilet, and there's 3 15-story buildings. That's going to be nasty.
Yeah.
And the other thing, if you want to talk about tile money, people write these letters about we're not doing this, or, you know, we're doing this, and here's my letter, you shouldn't do this. I'm trying to think of, I have a mental block on what it was, but just recently I went to court and this guy wrote a letter, said that we're doing this at your direction, and we do not agree with it. And I can't remember what the whole thing was. But what I remember what the judge said. The judge says, well, by getting him to sign this letter is an admission of guilt. He says, so your disclaimer is a basic admission of guilt. You knew you shouldn't have done it. You're the educated professional. You didn't make a good enough effort to dissuade him or walk away from the job. Therefore, you are liable.
Right.
After he had a signed disclaimer.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. That's a bad practice.
That's a real bad practice.
Yeah.
So,
what if anyone in my audience is listening and they think maybe they're a good fit for a forensics, you know, person, or where would someone start? Assuming they've been in the industry 15, 20 years.
They want to hit the ground running?
They want to get certified, or, you know, to be a consultant.
Certification.
Okay, so they want to be they want to just pursue that career.
Well, NTCA has a page of recognized consultants, and don't quote me on the price, but I think it's $375 to apply as a recognized consultant, and I don't know what the rest of the requirements are. I have an emeritus position on the page, so I don't pay for anything,
Sure.
So I don't know about nothing. But they have the Methods and Standards Committee vet anybody that wants to be a recognized consultant.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no such thing as a certification for consulting, or for that matter, a certification for inspection. Certifications for inspection are generated by for-profit agencies, not nonprofit, not industry organizations. They are generated by for-profit agencies. Mm-hmm. So you can get them from the Dalton Carpet Center for tile. You know, I mean, so if you really were serious about it, that's what I would do, is apply and to NTCA, get on a recognized consultants page. They'll vet it through the Methods and Standards Committees, who's in charge of doing that. Mm-hmm. That'd probably be the best way. But, you know, think carefully, because you got to have errors and omissions insurance. There's nothing that makes my job easier than have somebody make a stupid statement that they think is right and it's wrong. I had one last year. A guy said something or another, and he had published an article that had a completely contrary opinion, and we went into court.
Yeah.
And I presented this published article that he wrote, and so the judge asked him, what was it that made him change his opinion? Who's right or who's wrong?
Right.
You know, because he he contradicted himself.
Yeah.
And people try to, when you're paying somebody, you know, obviously the person paying you wants you to have their opinion. And for me, it don't work that way.
Yeah.
I had a guy, actually last week, I went to go look at a job, and I told the guy up front, I said, you have to prepay, otherwise I ain't going. And he didn't have time and blah, blah, blah. And I said, fine, bring a check. So before we went in the house, I asked him for the check. And he gave me the check. We went in the house. Well, I couldn't help this guy. He hacked the thing in, man. And we get out of the house with him and his attorney. He says, well, what can you do to help us? And I said, nothing. I says, you murdered that job. That thing is just hacked in. He says, well, you can repair it. And I said, how are you going to repair it? You know, no thin set underneath the backer board and, you know, no waterproofing in the shower. I said, there ain't no repair. There's tear out.
Yeah.
Well, then he's mad because he gave me never mind, but he gave me
check.
Yeah, he gave me a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I can do for him. It's like I get he wants a refund. And it's like,
yeah,
I drove all the way up here. You know, no, there's no refund.
Yeah.
But that's what people expect. When they hire somebody, they expect it all to be...
Oh, that you're going to be their best friend.
That you're going to be their best friend. And I had that happen to me on a hospital, too. And that was a big job, hospital, lobby and public restrooms. And they hired me, and it didn't go the way they wanted. And he said, so... And that was tens of thousands of dollars. And he says, so we paid you X? And he says, and the only thing that happened is you made us liable and we paid you X. He says, this is not exactly the outcome I had envisioned when I hired you.
Yeah.
I had no idea how it was going to work out.
Yeah.
So it's not that simple. I mean, everybody wants to be one, and that's great.
Well, I appreciate your insight into it, you know, and there's definitely a lot of forethought that would go into that.
Yeah, I mean, we need people out there. With the amount of hacks out there putting in tile, we need them more than ever.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's true.
It is true.
Sad, but true. Yeah.
Very sad, but it's a tough road. There's plenty of money out there. You know, there's in the tile world. And there'll always be money in the tile world. In the worst economic situation, there's still money in the tile world. I mean, I've gone through 3 down cycles. Always been money. Never got hurt. That last one we went through was at, when was it, 92, 93? I don't remember what the one before this, 2008, was. But it was pretty nasty.
Sounds about right, yeah.
I don't remember what the year was, but what I remember was we got through the whole thing, and there were only a couple of days of shop time during the whole period, you know, where I had guys working in the shop to get their 40 in. Mm-hmm. I never had anybody laid off. In 28 years, I never laid a man off, ever. We worked 40 hours a week. If you wanted a day off, you know, fine.
Yeah.
We worked 40 hours a week, never had a layoff, ever.
Yeah.
Not one guy, one time.
Yeah.
So it will work. You just have to plan. And it's a business. You know, the business is where you make the money. Once you get the job, you made the money. Now it's your job to keep the money.
Yeah.
You know? So...
I appreciate your insights. Thank you for your time, Dave.
All right, no problem.